Whispers of the impossible. The stars of the galaxy were calm, stretching across the endless void like rivers of fire. To the Galactic Empire, this sight was nothing new. For thousands of years they had ruled these stars. Their fleets moved without challenge. Their voice was law and their enemies bent the knee. But something new was moving through that calm sky, and its whispers carried fear. It began on the outer edges. Far from the core worlds of the Empire, traders spoke of a shape in the void. A shadow moving too fast. Some called it a ghost. Some called it a trick of sensors, but the stories did not fade. They spread each time the tale was told. It grew sharper, darker, and more frightening. The first official report came from a mining station orbiting a dead star. The workers there sent a message filled with panic. Their scanners had picked up a ship of unknown design, larger than any battleship, moving without a sound. When asked if it belonged to any known species, they gave a single reply: human. The Empire laughed at first. Humans were nothing, a forgotten race, scattered and broken, long ago defeated. They had no fleets, no colonies worth notice. The Council often used their name as a joke, to remind others how small races vanished when they defied the Empire. But this laughter did not last long. A scout ship was sent to confirm the sighting. Its crew recorded strange readings. The vessel they found was massive, black as the void. Its engines glowed with power beyond measurement, their weapons locked. But they never fired. They knew if they did, they would not live long enough to send a warning. Instead, they ran, hearts filled with fear. They sent one final message: it is real. The Empire received the black box data. The council chamber was filled with light as the recording played. At first, the admirals smirked. They saw only a ship drifting calmly, but then the instruments began to scream. Energy readings higher than any Empire warship. The chamber fell silent. Every officer stared at the image of the ship, a design simple but terrifying. A weapon of war unlike anything they had built. One admiral broke the silence. "This is impossible. Humanity cannot do this." His voice shook, though he tried to hide it. Another commander leaned forward, his eyes cold. "If one ship exists, then others may also exist." Fear spread quickly. The word human became dangerous to speak. Entire sectors whispered that the dead race had returned. Merchants carried the rumors across star systems. Some called it a ghost fleet. Others called it the return of the lost children of Earth. The Empire could not stop the whispers. In hidden taverns on fringe worlds, smugglers told stories. They swore they saw the black warship tearing through pirate fleets in silence. Some said it could vanish into shadows. Others said its guns could split moons. No matter the tale, one thing was the same. The warship was human. The Emperor himself received the data. His golden hall, filled with power and pride, grew cold as the images appeared before him. He had ruled for centuries, seen countless battles. Yet his hands trembled when he saw that ship. It was not just a weapon, it was a symbol, a reminder that humanity, the forgotten race, had not died. They had been waiting, watching, and building. The Emperor's advisors begged him to dismiss the story, to call it a trick, but he did not. He had ruled too long to mistake fear for nothing. He leaned forward and whispered, "If this is true, then we face an enemy unlike any before." His voice echoed through the hall, and not one dared to answer. On the outer edges of the Empire, the ship moved again. It did not hide, it did not run. It simply drifted past colonies and stations. Its presence alone was enough to make entire fleets turn back. No shots were fired, but battles were lost. The Empire, for the first time in ages, felt small. Every whisper carried the same question: how could humans build such a thing? They had no resources, no allies, and no empire of their own. The thought alone shook the foundations of galactic pride. If humans could rise again, what else were they hiding? And so the whispers of the impossible grew louder, spreading like fire in the wind. The Empire tried to silence them, but the fear was already alive in every corner of space, in every council and in every ship. One truth was spoken in hushed voices: the human warship exists, and it is watching. First contact with the unknown, the scout ship named Vayner's Light, moved through the darkness with engines humming low. The crew had been sent with simple orders: find the strange vessel, confirm its existence, and return. None of them expected to succeed, and yet none of them could shake the feeling of dread pressing against their hearts. Their captain, a veteran of the border wars, sat in silence as the stars slid by. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair too tightly. He had fought pirates, rebels, and strange creatures from the deep void, but nothing had made him feel this kind of fear. His crew whispered behind him, voices low. What if the stories are true? Hours passed. The ship's scanners swept the void. At first they found nothing. Only drifting rocks and empty light. Then suddenly alarms rang. A massive shadow appeared at the edge of the system, far larger than any ship should be. The readings came back broken, engines off the charts, weapon energy levels far beyond Imperial design. The crew froze, staring at the screen, and there it was, a giant vessel, silent in the void. Its shape was simple, not curved like the Empire's elegant warships, but sharp and brutal, made for battle. The hull was scarred, old wounds from wars unknown, yet still it drifted with power. Each line of its design spoke one word: human. The captain ordered full records. Scan everything, every detail. His voice shook but carried authority. The crew obeyed, hands flying over controls. Every sensor screamed, unable to process the numbers. The engines alone carried the strength of entire fleets. The weapons pulsed with sleeping power. And yet the ship did nothing. It only floated, calm, like a predator that had no need to move. The crew felt it watching them, though no signals came. No hails, no threats, still. The silence was worse than words, one officer whispered. It knows we are here. The captain said nothing. His eyes locked on the screen. He felt as if the void itself was staring back at him. The tension broke when lights flickered across the alien hull. They were not signals, not warnings. They looked like scars glowing faintly, patterns etched into the metal. The captain leaned closer. Those are battle marks, he whispered. That ship has fought before. Many times the realization spread through the bridge. If the stories were true, if this ship was human, then humanity had not only returned. They had survived wars beyond imagination. Panic swept the crew. Some begged to retreat, to turn back before it noticed them. Others wanted to launch a probe to test if it would respond. The captain raised a hand for silence. His heart raced, but he knew the choice had already been made. They would not fire. They would not provoke. They would record and run. And then the ship moved, a slow, deliberate shift. Its engines ignited with a glow brighter than suns. The Empire's scanners screamed louder. The readings climbed higher than any known warship. The crew's breath caught. It's alive, someone whispered. The Predator stirred, but it did not attack. Instead, it turned its hull, showing its full size. Stretching longer than dreadnoughts, each weapon mount was larger than cities. Each engine burned with power strong enough to shatter fleets. The captain knew then. This was no myth, this was real. He gave the order. Send the message now. The communications officer's hands shook as he sent the emergency broadcast. A short, desperate cry carried across the stars. It is real, the human warship exists. For a moment, the crew thought they would die. The warship turned its weapons toward them. Their shields flared as targeting systems locked. Every heart on board froze, waiting for fire that never came. Instead, the ship turned away, drifting once more into the void. As if they were beneath its notice, the silence that followed was worse than any battle. The crew sat frozen, staring at the dark screen. Sweat dripped from faces, breath came in shallow gasps. The captain finally spoke, voice low and broken. We saw it. We are alive only because it allowed it. They turned their small scout ship around and fled into the stars, engines burning hot. The warship did not chase, it did not need to. Its message had already been sent, humanity had returned. When Vayner's light reached Imperial space, the crew was silent. Their report was short, but it carried more weight than any battle victory. They handed over the recordings, trembling hands passing data crystals to command officers. The admiral in charge frowned, expecting a false alarm. But when he saw the footage, all color left his face. The image of the ship filled the chamber. Black and brutal, its scars glowing like ancient fire. The admiral whispered words he did not mean to speak. This is no ghost, this is war. The message spread fast. From the fleet to the council, from the council to the emperor. The words carried like thunder. Humanity's warship exists, and the galaxy will never sleep the same again. The council in panic. The Imperial High Council gathered in the Great Hall. The chamber was built from crystal and steel, walls glowing with the light of captured stars. For centuries, this place had been the heart of order. Every decision, every war, every judgment of the galaxy had passed through these seats. But now the hall was filled not with pride, but with fear. The recording from the scout ship flickered across the air. The image of the black warship dominated the chamber. Its brutal design stretched over the council floor. Every line of its hull, every glowing scar whispered of power far beyond their own. The murmurs of the counselors rose like a storm. One noble slammed his hand against the table. "This cannot be true," he shouted. His voice was strong, but his eyes betrayed him. Humans were broken, scattered. They have no empire, they have no fleets. But another counselor cut him off, her voice sharp. "Then explain this. Explain the readings. Explain how a single ship carries power greater than 10 dreadnoughts." The chamber erupted. Voices clashed. Some demanded calm, others demanded immediate war. A few whispered what none dared to say aloud. Fear. For the first time in centuries, the Empire felt afraid. The Grand Admiral stood, his uniform shining with medals of 100 victories. He was a man of steel, feared by all, yet even his voice trembled when he spoke. "I have studied the data," he said slowly, "and I tell you this. The ship is real. The recordings are not false. The sensors do not lie." His words silenced the room. The Emperor entered then. His golden robes flowed as he walked to the central throne. His eyes were sharp, cold as the void. For a moment, the fear in the room vanished, for he had ruled unchallenged for centuries. But when he looked at the warship, frozen in the projection, his lips pressed tight, he spoke with measured tone. "What is one ship against an empire?" His voice echoed, calm but heavy, yet no one answered. They all knew the truth. That ship was not just a ship. It was a symbol, a warning. Humanity had returned, and they had not come weak. The council's keeper of records stood, his voice shaking. "There are old files, forbidden texts. They speak of human worlds destroyed long ago, but some whispers said they vanished into the dark. They did not die. They hid. They waited." His words sent chills across the chamber. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "If one ship exists, there may be more," he said. His words were like thunder. "And if there are more, then the Empire faces a storm it cannot ignore." Panic spread through the noble houses. Already messages were flying in secret. Families preparing their fleets. Traders pulling out of border systems. Rumors leapt from world to world like wildfire. The word human became the most dangerous sound in the galaxy. The admirals argued. Some wanted to strike first, to gather fleets and crush the warship before it acted. Others warned that such an attempt would only prove weakness. "If we lose," one admiral whispered, "then the galaxy will know the Empire bleeds." The council chamber shook with voices. The Emperor raised a hand. Silence fell at once, his gaze swept across them. "We cannot show weakness," he declared, "but neither can we ignore this threat. Send fleets, not one, not two, but 3. Find this warship, corner it, and destroy it." The words echoed, but not all felt comfort. Deep inside, many counselors knew the truth. The Empire's pride blinded them. That warship was not prey. It was a predator. After the meeting, in dark corridors, whispers grew louder. Low voices spoke of doom. "If humans built one ship like that," they said, "they can build more." Others spoke of legends, old stories told of Earth, of resilience, of a race that never surrendered. If those stories were true, then the Empire had awakened a giant they could not chain. The Grand Admiral walked alone from the hall, his face pale, his eyes lost in thought. He had fought endless wars, broken rebellions, crushed fleets. But this was different. This was something the Empire had never faced. He whispered softly to himself, "If humanity has returned, then our age of rule is ending." In the shadows above the council world, spies of other races listened. They too carried the rumors. They too watched the recordings. And in secret, some began to hope, for if the Empire feared, then perhaps its chains could finally be broken. But for the Empire itself, the panic grew heavy. The warship had not fired, had not spoken, had not declared war. Yet its silence screamed louder than any battle. The Empire was mighty. But in their hearts they all knew the truth. They had seen the impossible, and the impossible had a human name. The awakening of the warship, the void, was silent, endless, stretching like a dark ocean without waves. In that silence drifted the human warship, vast and terrible, its hull scarred from forgotten battles, its shape sharp and brutal, like a blade forged for war. To the Empire it looked ancient, yet every system burned with power far greater than anything their engineers had ever dreamed. For days the warship drifted on the edge of Imperial space. It did not hide, it did not speak. It simply existed. And yet, its very presence sent entire sectors into panic. Fleets refused to patrol, merchants fled, colonies locked their doors. The Empire ruled 1,000 worlds, but now a single ship made them tremble. Deep within the warship, silence gave way to life. Lights flickered across the long corridors. Machines hummed awake. Systems once asleep stirred as if answering a call. In the heart of the ship, ancient reactors pulsed with fire, feeding power into every weapon, every shield, every engine. The warship was not drifting by chance, it was waiting. From the bridge of a distant Imperial carrier, commanders watched with cold dread. Their screens glowed with impossible readings. "It's waking up," one officer whispered, his voice barely a breath. The admiral leaned forward, his hands shaking though he tried to appear calm. "No ship carries this much energy, no ship," he muttered. Yet the readings climbed higher and higher. Across the galaxy the news spread. The human warship was no ghost. It was alive. It was preparing. And no one knew what for. On the warship itself, its hull glowed faintly. Lines of light spread across the black metal like veins of fire. To outside eyes it looked like the ship itself was breathing, as if it carried a living soul. The few who saw it from a distance swore they felt a presence pressing into their minds, not words, not signals, just a cold truth. Humanity had returned. The Empire panicked. 3 fleets were dispatched, each one vast, filled with battleships, cruisers, and carriers. They were ordered to surround the warship, to destroy it before the galaxy could see them hesitate. The admirals carried pride in their voices, but fear in their hearts. They knew what they faced was beyond their understanding. The fleets closed in, their weapons armed, their engines burning bright. The void was filled with light as thousands of ships formed a net around the lone vessel. The commanders believed numbers would crush it. No matter how strong, no ship could stand against the power of 3 Imperial armadas. But the warship stirred. Its massive frame shifted with slow grace. Engines roared, burning brighter than suns. Its weapons, silent for so long, began to glow. Turrets turned, launch bays opened. The ship was not running, it was not hiding. It was awakening. A wave of fear spread through the Imperial ranks. Officers stared at their screens, hearts pounding. Some ships faltered, drifting back. The admirals shouted orders, desperate to hold the line, but no voice could silence the terror. And then the warship moved. Not fast, not reckless, but with the steady confidence of a predator. Its engines tore the silence. Its weapons came alive. Light poured from its hull like a storm. The first Imperial ships locked targets. Their guns burned. But before they could fire, their systems shut down. The warship's pulse rippled across space, crushing their power like dry leaves. Alarms screamed across every Imperial ship. The admirals shouted, but their voices broke. The warship had not fired a single shot, and already fleets were falling apart. The Emperor watched from his throne, his eyes fixed on the projection before him. He saw his proud fleets falter. He saw the black warship turn slowly to face them, and in that moment, even he could not deny the truth. The impossible had awakened. Across the galaxy, in shadowed corners, the smaller races whispered. Some trembled. Some smiled, for if the Empire could bleed, then perhaps its chains could be broken. They whispered a single word with hope and fear. Humans. The warship's hull flared brighter. Its voice was silence, but its presence roared across the stars. The message was clear. Humanity had not been erased. Humanity had not been forgotten. Humanity had waited, and now their warship was awake. Clash of Titans. The 3 Imperial fleets stood like walls of fire in the void. Thousands of warships lined up in formation, weapons armed, engines blazing. Their commanders believed sheer numbers would crush the lone vessel. After all, no matter how powerful, one ship could not face the strength of 3 armadas. That was the pride of the Empire, the pride they had always trusted. But pride alone could not stop fear. The warship drifted before them, massive and silent. Its hull glowed with strange light, its weapons alive with quiet energy. To the Imperial captains, it looked less like a machine and more like a beast, ancient and patient, waiting for the first fool to strike. Admiral Carvos, leader of the First Fleet, raised his hand. His voice was sharp, hiding the fear in his chest. All ships, fire at will. The order echoed and a storm of light erupted. Thousands of plasma bolts, missiles, and beams surged across the void, filling the black sky with death. For a moment the admirals smiled. For a moment they believed victory was theirs. But then the storm hit and the warship did not burn. It did not break, it did not even move. Its shields flared once, glowing like the surface of a star. And then the storm vanished. All weapons, all attacks, reduced to nothing in a single breath. The bridge of the Imperial flagship fell silent. Officers stared at their screens, mouths open. That is impossible, one whispered. The admiral slammed his fist on the console. Fire again, he roared. The fleets obeyed, pouring every weapon they had into the void, and again, the storm fell silent against the warship's shield. Then the warship answered, its main cannon lit up. A line of light brighter than suns. It fired once, only once. The beam tore through space, cutting across the First Fleet like a blade through glass. Dozens of ships exploded at once. Entire squadrons vanished in fire. The shockwave rolled across the void, throwing survivors into chaos. The Second Fleet broke formation, panic spreading. Some captains tried to hold the line, others turned to run. But the warship was faster. Its engines roared. Moving that massive frame like a predator striking prey, it fired again. And a carrier the size of a city shattered into burning fragments. The admirals shouted orders, but no one listened. Fear ruled now. The crew screamed, alarms echoed. Ships collided in their rush to escape. The warship did not chase every target. It struck with calm precision, each shot destroying the largest threats, each strike spreading more fear. On the Third Fleet's bridge, Admiral Sarah clenched her fists, her voice cut through the chaos. Hold, we cannot break. If we fall here, the Empire falls with us. Her ships formed a shield wall, dozens of dreadnoughts locking their defenses. Their combined firepower unleashed a storm unlike anything seen before. For the first time, the warship slowed, its shields flared brighter. The void shook with energy as fire and light clashed. For a heartbeat, the admirals believed they had forced it back. For a heartbeat, they thought it could be stopped. Then the warship revealed its true power. Its hull split open, revealing weapons never seen before. Massive cannons unfolded, missile bays opened. Energy pulses built into a storm. It did not fire one weapon, it fired all at once. The void became white with destruction. The shield wall collapsed, dreadnoughts fell. Entire lines vanished in flame. The Third Fleet shattered. The admirals watched their fleets burn. Some screamed, some sat in silence. The truth was clear, this was no battle. This was slaughter, and yet the warship did not finish them. It did not hunt every survivor. It left ships adrift, broken and burning. It turned slowly as if to say, "You are not worth the effort." Its silence was louder than victory. Its calm retreat more terrifying than any attack. When the smoke cleared, 3 Imperial fleets were gone. Hundreds of ships reduced to wreckage. Thousands of lives lost. The survivors whispered in disbelief. "One ship," they said. "One ship destroyed us all across the galaxy." The news spread like wildfire. Every race, every world heard the story. The great empire, the eternal power, had been torn apart by a single human warship. Hope rose in places where fear had lived for generations. If the empire could bleed, then perhaps it could fall. The emperor listened in his throne. His hands gripped the armrests. His voice was low, filled with something his advisors had never heard before. Doubt. "If one ship can do this," he whispered, "then what happens if there are more?" The warship drifted back into the void. Silent once more, but the galaxy had changed. The clash of titans had ended and the empire had lost. The secret revealed. The wreckage of 3 Imperial fleets drifted in the cold void. Broken hulls turned slowly. Flames flickered before dying in silence. The battle was over, but its echo shook the galaxy. Never before had the Empire suffered such a defeat, and never at the hands of only one ship. Survivors returned with broken voices. Their report spread faster than light. "One human warship," they whispered. "One ship crushed us all." Admirals who once carried pride now spoke in fear. Some refused to speak at all, their silence more terrifying than words. In hidden corners of the galaxy, small races listened. For centuries they had bowed to the Empire. Their fleets shattered, their worlds enslaved. But now they heard of the impossible. They heard of humanity, a race thought lost, now returned with fire, and with each whisper hope grew. The Empire tried to control the story. They called it lies, they called it a trick. But the recordings could not be denied. Images of the black warship spread across the stars. Each scar, each glowing weapon. Shown again and again, the truth was alive, and no order could silence it. In the grand halls of the Empire, scholars searched old records, forbidden archives buried deep. They uncovered fragments of history erased long ago. Humanity had not been broken, humanity had not vanished. When the Empire believed them dead, they had fled, carrying their strength into the shadows. The records spoke of secret colonies hidden beyond the mapped stars, of worlds covered in silence where humans built and prepared. For centuries they had been ghosts, unseen and unheard. But while the Empire grew arrogant, humanity grew strong. They studied, they built, they waited. The revelation shook the council. The whispers now turned to fear of something greater. If this was only one ship, what else had humanity hidden? How many fleets slept in the dark? How many weapons lay waiting? The Emperor stood before his court, his face pale but his voice hard. "We face not a ghost," he said. "We face an enemy who has been watching us for centuries. An enemy who waited until we grew fat with pride. An enemy who chose this moment to show us what we truly are, weak." His words left the chamber in silence. No one dared to answer. Meanwhile, the warship continued its silent journey, drifting from system to system. It did not attack colonies, it did not conquer worlds. It only showed itself each time it appeared. Fleets ran, planets trembled, and whispers spread. Its silence was more powerful than fire. It told the galaxy a truth. Humanity was back, and they were unafraid. Among the smaller races, secret meetings began. Leaders gathered in shadows, some whispered of alliance, some whispered of rebellion. For if humans could challenge the Empire, then perhaps freedom was possible. They no longer looked at the Empire as gods. They saw them as mortals, they saw them bleed. In the Empire's military academies, young officers questioned their lessons. They had been taught humanity was weak, primitive, broken. Now they saw the truth with their own eyes. The weak had survived, and they had become something stronger than any Empire fleet. Doubt grew in their hearts, and with doubt came cracks in loyalty. The galaxy itself seemed to shift. The balance of power trembled. For so long the Empire had stood unchallenged. But now every ruler, every commander, every child whispered the same name, humanity, on a distant world. An old archivist looked at the stars and smiled. He had kept the stories alive. He had told his people that humans would return. They had laughed, they had mocked him. But now the truth had arrived. He whispered into the night, "They are not gone." They were never gone. Back in the throne hall, the Emperor sat alone, his advisors gone, his council dismissed. He stared at the projection of the warship. Still glowing above him, he had faced countless enemies. But none like this, for this enemy had not spoken, had not declared war. It had only appeared, and in its silence, it had undone the foundation of his empire. He clenched his fists, his voice low. If one ship can do this, what of 10? What of 100? His words echoed through the empty hall. The truth was out, the secret was revealed. Humanity had not been destroyed. Humanity had prepared, humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Empire trembles, the throne world of the Empire stood in silence. The golden halls, once filled with songs of victory, now echoed with whispers of fear. The Emperor sat upon his high seat, his crown heavy upon his head. His eyes never left the image of the human warship projected before him. It was not just metal, not just a machine. It was a shadow over his entire reign. Reports filled the chamber. Survivors from the fleets described the slaughter. Some could not speak at all. Their voices lost to terror. Admirals knelt, ashamed, confessing that their fleets had been broken like glass. The words repeated again and again. One ship, only one ship. Each time the phrase was spoken, the chamber grew colder. The Emperor clenched his fists. His pride had been the foundation of the Empire, the belief that no enemy could stand against their power. Yet here was proof that belief was a lie. For the first time in ages, the Empire had met something it could not control. Outside the throne room, panic spread. The people of the Empire whispered in fear. Some locked their doors, some fled to distant colonies, others spoke openly of rebellion. If one human ship could tear fleets apart, then perhaps the Empire was not eternal. Perhaps it could fall. The noble houses turned restless. Old rivals met in secret. Some saw an opportunity to break free, to seize power while the Emperor's grip weakened. They had feared him for centuries. But now they feared something else more. The silent warship of humanity. In the military academies, young cadets questioned their lessons. They had been taught that humans were weak, primitive, broken long ago. But the truth now burned in their minds. The humans had not died, they had hidden, they had prepared. They had returned stronger than ever. Doubt spread like fire. And with doubt came cracks in loyalty. In distant systems, conquered races began to whisper. They looked to the stars with new hope. If humans could rise from the ashes, perhaps they too could rise, the dream of freedom. Buried for centuries began to stir again. The Emperor called his council once more. The chamber was filled with trembling voices. Some begged to prepare more fleets, others begged to seek peace. But the Emperor silenced them all, his voice was iron. But deep within it was something none had heard before. Fear. If this is one ship, he said slowly, then we must ask, how many more are there? The question froze the chamber. No one spoke, for they all knew the answer they feared. Humanity had waited too long, built too much. They would not have revealed only one. The warship itself continued its silent path. Drifting from system to system, it did not conquer. It did not demand, it simply appeared. Its presence alone was enough to break fleets. Its silence enough to shake thrones. The galaxy had never known such power. Spies carried the tale across the stars. In the hidden councils of lesser races, leaders leaned forward, whispering with new fire in their eyes. The humans have returned, they said, and the Empire is afraid. That truth alone was stronger than any weapon. On the throne world, the Emperor walked alone through his palace. His steps echoed in the vast halls. For centuries he had ruled unchallenged. His word had been law, his fleets unstoppable. Now he felt the shadow of something greater pressing upon him. For the first time in his life, he trembled. He stood before a window of crystal, gazing out at the endless stars. His voice was low, meant only for himself. If one warship can shake the Empire, he whispered, then humanity has already won. And far away in the silence of the void, the human warship drifted on, its hull glowing faintly, its weapons silent but ready. It did not need to speak, its existence was enough. The galaxy was awake now. The Empire trembled, and humanity had returned to claim the stars.